here we go. Been trying to do this for 2 weeks now. Maybe we're going to finally get it together. This is coming from Don Ellis's garage. Wondering how everybody's doing out there. I swore in my life I would never, ever post a video. So it's going to be really interesting if I finally get one posted. No, there's nothing on it. Oh, okay. So, we're going to throw a small bulbous pot with a little twist on the top, and then have a little addition on the pot. Hopefully I'm going to do one of these a week, at least, maybe more, and get them out to you. So, this is just a small pot. A lot of them are going to be things that I did years ago and haven't done for quite a while. But I used to do them for the shop. So again, this is just a small bulbous pot. When I first started doing bulbous pots, I was doing a lot of copper mats, and I would put a copper wire at the top. And the reason why I put the copper wire at the top was I really liked the way it finished it off, but it also allowed me to tell people where the front and the back of the pot is. So, as usual with every pull, I'm going to go down, I'm going to make my clean ridge at the bottom, and I'm going to bring that clay up. And I'm just going to pull a good cylinder. Now after I pull that good cylinder, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and clean the bottom of the pot off. Get any extra weight I can off of it. Then I'm going to take a rib and I'm going to get any moisture that I can of the outside of the pot. I'm going to go ahead and take all the moisture off out of the pot. And then I'm just going to go ahead and start expanding it. So as I expand the pot out, about 2 inches or so from the top of the pot, I'm going to leave that collar going almost straight up. And that gives the pot strength. And it also allows me to have clay right there to neck in. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but because I'm working with almost no moisture, you can actually hear the rib going over the inside of the pot. So now I've set up the shape. I'm going to go ahead and neck it in. So I'm not going to neck it in all in one move. I'm going to go ahead and neck it some. I'm going to neck it again. So now I'm going to go ahead and take the rib again. You see how I'm holding it between just my 2 fingers real lightly. And I'm going to push out. Now with that push, I was actually going from the top down. Sometimes I'll go from the top down. Sometimes I'll go from the bottom up. Now I want to go ahead and get that moisture off. We want to go ahead and keep as much moisture off of it as we can. So now I'm going to go ahead and continue it in. Once it starts to bunch up, I'm going to go inside and just make a pull and try and straighten those bunches out. So that's about getting to the shape that I want. I'll go ahead and take my Japanese throwing stick, also known as a wooden spoon, and I'm going to push out and start to refine that shape. Now once I reach the midpoint, I need to push out, but I also need to pull up. So you can see as I pushed out, a lot of times when you push out, the pot will get shorter. The pot didn't actually get shorter when I did that. It stayed about the same height. It may have actually just gotten even a little bit taller. So again, when I go to throw this, once I start shaping, I almost never put any water on the rib. Pot's thin at this point, so once it's this thin, if I drip water down the side of it, it'll really do some bad things to the wall of the pot, depending upon how much moisture I put in. It'll actually cause it to totally split. So I'm going to go ahead right now, right at the top. You can see how I dug in with the very point of the rib here. And now I'm going to push that top down and flatten it out. Just want to keep kind of looking at that shape and refining it. Letting that flatten down, top down. You can go ahead and chamois it. Now what I want to do, area that I want the wire to sit. Okay, so now I want to refine this area right here. I'm going to take the back end point of the rib. Now I'm going to take the real pointed area and I'm going to poke in and undercut it right there. Up a little bit. Definitely clean up right there. As you can see, that's undercut there so that the wire can ride right there. So, I'm going to go ahead and work it all back over just one more time. I'm going to take this rib, go ahead one more time and go over it. And what I want to do now, when I come in, I'll just use the very edge of that rib and I'll put another line right there. And that's very subtle, but it'll actually make a difference on when the pot's done. So that's throwing a pot that's going to have a wire that's going to be placed right there when it's all done. So we're going to go ahead and come back just a second and I'm going to show you the next part of what I would do with this pot. Okay, so now through the magic of the magic oven, I have another pot ready that I threw the other day so I could finish it. So what I'm going to do, what I normally do is I'll throw 10 or 12 of these pots. I'll have them all ready to trim. So normally I just center and open the piece of clay for the next pot. But in this case I'm going to go ahead and just center a little piece of clay. I'm going to grab the already finished pot. I want this to not have a lot of moisture on it, so I'm just going to drag my finger there and take the moisture off, but there is enough moisture to hold it in place. So now I'm just going to go ahead, take my trimming tool and trim this down. This is a little drier than I would like, but it'll work. And I'm just looking at the curve of the pot, and I'm going to just continue that curve down to a fairly small bottom. Now, I talk about I trim with a rib a lot. And the reason I want to trim with a rib is because if the pot starts to get pretty thin, the rib will cause the wall of the pot to flex instead of my trimming through it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to bend that rib to that curve, and so it allows me to use it as a template for the flow of the curve. I'm going to put a little bit of moisture on there. I'm going to come back with a yellow mud tool. Let's push all of that grain back in. And I might go over it a couple of times. Like I say, realistically, all I'm doing is pushing all that grain back in and making it nice and smooth. Now once I get there, I'm going to go ahead and use the small trimming tool and cut out just a small inner foot. And I always tell the students, always start from the outside and work in. I was not taught that, so I almost always start from the inside and work out. But the problem with that is, if I make a mistake and flinch or sneeze, I've got a problem. Then I'm going to go ahead and take this, and I'm just going to pull it back down while I do it, and pop it loose. Amen. Okay, so what I did was I took this lizard that used to be Dalton's, and he loved lizards when he was a kid, so he had all these plastic toys, and I pushed clay around it, coated it with cornstarch or ball clay or something like that. I take it, I can put cornstarch or ball clay in the mold, and I just take some clay and I work it into the mold. Now this has been bisqued. I like to do it with non-bisqued pieces too. It just depends on how I feel this time around, kind of. And I take the clay and I just work it in with a rib, and then I'm going to take it, make a little noise here, and I start beating on a board or a tabletop or a rib. I normally wouldn't try and do it this quickly. Might let it sit for a few minutes. Mold is breaking apart. Hey, but we'll go with it. You can, okay, so you can see it's starting to release. And I'm just gonna casually work it out. Gently release it from the mold. Oh, lost part of the tail. We'll work with it though. Okay, so then I'm going to take an X-Acto knife And I'm going to undercut it just a little bit. And I'm going to work all the way around. Not necessarily worried about all the detail right now, because I'll go back. I do want to undercut the legs and things so it gives it a little bit more dimension. A little bit more depth. When I first started doing these, I did lizards, turtles, frogs, butterflies, dragonflies, and I did most of them with copper mats as my firing technique, but also did horsehair. Oh yeah, horned toads was another one that I did a mold of. That little sucker sure did squirm when I put the clay around him. Just kidding. Just kidding. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that loose. Now, also I talked about creating depth. I think that's the difference in a lot of what I did and what I saw some other people doing, was they really didn't have any depth at all on their pieces. So when I do this, I'll take the leg and I'll push it down. I might pull this one up just a little bit. And I'm going to take it. I've got my pot. And I don't score it or anything. But I'm going to go ahead and just get some slip. Put it on the bottom of the pot. Or the bottom of the lizard. I want to, like I said, I like to make him standing up, so I'll push down on the foot, I'll raise that one up on the lip, and I'll raise his head up. Take the tail and put it down. So you can see how by raising the head and putting that 1 foot up and the 1 foot down, it really starts to give him a little bit more depth. And then I'll come back with something to accentuate the toes on the lizard. I'll use a rubber nipple sometimes and go back and really kind of clean it up. You can see I'm coming back, undercutting the body, and again what that does is give him a little bit more depth. The nipple would allow me to clean it up a little bit. I think the thing I used to use usually for the toes was a nail. And I would go back and I'm going to dig under right there. Come under here. I'm going to go back and really cut under that arm so it casts a shadow. So that's kind of it. I will go back and cut the tail and add on to this part of the tail, but that's more or less what I'm looking for. I'll also spray it down real good and that'll kind of blend it in just a little bit. So also see, I want to go back and cut under this part of his head or his chin. So that's kind of it. That's the lizard pot that I'll go back, and the wire goes right around here, and kind of a southwest flare. But that's one way to finish off a bulbous pot. So I think what I'm going to do is come back and do a lot of different things with bulbous pots, so that you can kind of see how to decorate them or finish them off. So that's it. Thanks a lot. Everybody hang in there.